she was struggling. That's what he said. Like it explained everything, like it justified the fact that he had just walked through the door at 7:02 in the morning on the day after my birthday. His keys landed on the table with that familiar metallic sound. The same routine, the same movements, the same man I had built my life around, except nothing about it felt familiar anymore. I was sitting at the kitchen table, still in the same clothes I had worn the night before. My coffee had gone cold hours ago. I hadn't slept. I hadn't even tried. I had spent the entire night watching time pass, waiting for my husband to come home, and somewhere between midnight and sunrise, I stopped waiting. Elena called me, he said casually, like he was explaining why he was late from work. She was having a panic attack. Elena, his ex, the one I was always overthinking about. She needed someone, he added. What was I supposed to do? I looked at him. Really looked at him. He looked tired, but not guilty. And that was the moment something inside me settled. Not broke. Settled. You didn't answer your phone, I said quietly. I called you 6 times. It was on silent, he shrugged. I didn't see it. Like missing my birthday wasn't a betrayal, just an inconvenience. My name is Natalie Carson. I was 29 years old, married for 3 years. And for most of that time, I wasn't unhappy. I was adjusting to his schedule, adjusting to his moods, adjusting to the way I always felt like I was just slightly less important than something else in his life. At first, I didn't question it, because Marcus had a way of making everything sound reasonable. You're overthinking. You always assume the worst. You need to relax. So I did. I relaxed, I trusted, I stayed quiet until I didn't. That morning, I didn't argue, I didn't cry, I didn't ask for explanations I already knew would turn into excuses. Instead, I looked down at my hand. The ring felt heavier than it ever had before. I slid it off slowly, vattentonda, and placed it on the table. The sound it made was soft, but it was loud enough. Marcus stopped talking. What are you doing? I didn't answer. I stood up and walked past him, close enough to smell perfume on his shirt, not mine, and that told me everything I needed to know. I hadn't always been this quiet. Before Marcus, I was loud, confident, the kind of woman who didn't hesitate to ask questions. My friends used to say I had too much personality for one room. Somewhere along the way, I became someone who apologized for existing too loudly. Looking back, the signs were always there. I just chose not to connect them, like the time I found a receipt in his jacket pocket, a restaurant we had never been to. Client dinner, he said. Or the night his phone buzzed at 1:30 a.m., he turned it over immediately. Work. Or Elena's name, always present, always explained, always harmless. She's just going through a lot. She doesn't have anyone. She's not a threat. And I believed him, because the truth would have destroyed everything I thought I had. But that morning, something changed, not in him, in me. I walked to his desk. His laptop was still open. I had never touched it before. I used to think trust meant not looking. Now I understood something different. Trust without awareness isn't trust. It's blindness. The messages were already there, open, waiting. Last night felt like before. My chest tightened. His reply came second later. I know. I missed that. I kept scrolling. It wasn't one conversation. It was years. Messages layered over time like a second life I had never been allowed to see. Hotel bookings, dinner plans, photos, memories that didn't include me, but happened during my marriage. And then I saw it, the line that ended everything. Nat doesn't notice anything. She never does. I sat there for a long time, not crying, not panicking, just understanding. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't weakness. This was a pattern, a system, a life he had built alongside mine. When he walked into the room, I closed the laptop, picked up my suitcase. You're really leaving? He asked. There's nothing left to stay for. I didn't slam the door. I didn't shout. I just left. At the hotel that night, my phone didn't stop ringing. Anger, apologies, blame, then love. then anger again. It was the same cycle, the same pattern, the same manipulation, but something inside me had already disconnected. The next morning, I went to my mother's house. She opened the door, looked at my face, and didn't ask questions. She just said, "Come in." I told her everything, the messages, the lies, the years. When I finished, she didn't speak for a moment. Then she said something I didn't expect. I always knew something wasn't right. That hurt. Not because she knew, because I did too. And I stayed anyway. "You don't have to stay where you're not respected," she said. And for the first time in a long time, I believed someone. 3 days later, Marcus showed up with flowers. Of course he did. "I made mistakes," he said. "Elena didn't mean anything. You're overreacting." Even then, even after everything, he still thought this was something he could talk his way out of. "I read everything," I said, and just like that, the performance ended. His face changed, from confident to calculating, from loving to defensive. "That's private," he said, like privacy mattered more than honesty. "I want a divorce." For the first time, he looked afraid. And I realized something important. He wasn't afraid of losing me. He was afraid of losing control. The lawyer's office smelled like paper and quiet decisions. Her name was Victoria Shaw. She didn't ask how I felt. She asked what I had, proof. So I gave her everything, messages, screenshots, bank records. That's when we discovered something worse. He hadn't just been cheating, he had been paying for it. With our money. Transfers to an account I didn't recognize. Hotel stays during business trips. Restaurant charges from places we never went together. A jewelry purchase for $800. I didn't own any $800 jewelry. Elena did. And then the trip to Austin, the one he called a sales conference. The resort receipt told a different story. 2 guests, premium suite, couples massage, all paid from our joint account, our money, my earnings, funding his affair. Victoria looked up from the documents. This changes everything. She was right. This wasn't just infidelity. This was theft. Betrayal with a paper trail. "In Texas," she said, "we can argue for unequal division based on fault." She paused. "And misuse of marital funds is fault." For the first time since this started, I felt something other than pain. I felt power. The next few weeks were strategic. No emotions, just evidence, bank statements, credit card records, screenshots organized by date, hotel confirmations, calendar entries that didn't match his stories, every lie documented, every deception proven. Marcus tried to fight back. He called my family, showed up crying to my mom, texted my brother Jason, calling me unstable. He even contacted my boss, warned her I was emotionally compromised, making decisions under stress. My boss, Lauren, called me into her office. "Your husband contacted me," she said carefully. My face went hot. "He did what?" "He thought he was being helpful." She paused. "Want to tell me what's actually going on?" For a moment, I wanted to protect him, even then, even after everything. But I was done protecting liars. "My husband cheated on me for our entire marriage. I'm divorcing him. He's panicking." Lauren's expression softened. "I'm sorry, and for the record, no phone call from him will ever affect how I see your work." I called Victoria immediately. "He's contacting my workplace now." "Document it," she said. "This only helps us." And it did. Because every desperate move he made proved exactly who he was. The final discovery came from property records, the apartment we bought together, the one I thought was ours. Victoria pulled the documents. "The down payment," she said. "It came entirely from your savings." Yes, Marcus didn't have much saved. He promised to pay a larger share of the mortgage to balance it out. "Did you get that in writing?" I paused. "No, we just agreed." Victoria's expression told me everything. "He's been paying exactly 50% for 2 years. My stomach dropped. He never increased it. Never. So I had paid the entire down payment and half the mortgage, while he paid nothing extra and used our money to fund his affair. Victoria leaned forward. You own significantly more equity in that apartment than he does." She paused. "And combined with the misuse of funds, we have a strong case for you to keep it." That night, I made a list. What I wanted: the apartment, reimbursement for the money he stole, a clean break, no second chances, no negotiations. Marcus had spent 3 years treating my trust like a resource to exploit. Now he was going to learn what happened when the resource ran out. The court date arrived 6 weeks later. I walked in calm. Marcus walked in confident. His lawyer tried to paint me as vindictive, emotional, unreasonable. But Victoria was ready. She presented the financial records first: every transfer, every hotel charge, every dollar he had diverted to Elena, the joint account they shared, the gifts, the trips, all funded by our marriage. Then she presented the messages. Not all of them, just the worst ones. "Nat doesn't notice anything. She's clueless." Makes it easy. The judge read them, out loud, in a courtroom, with witnesses, and Marcus shrank. The confident man disappeared. In his place sat someone who had finally been caught. When the judge asked if he had anything to say, his lawyer shook his head. There was nothing to say. Evidence doesn't argue. It just exists. The ruling came quickly. I kept the apartment. Marcus reimbursed me $12,000 for misappropriated funds. He received nothing from my retirement accounts. No split. No compromise. Just consequences. Outside the courtroom, he caught up to me. "You ruined everything," he said bitterly. I stopped, turned, looked at him one last time. "No," I said calmly, "you did." And I walked away. 6 months later, I stood in my apartment, my space, my name on the lease, my choices on the walls. I had repainted the bedroom, sage green. The color Marcus always said was too bold. I had rearranged everything: new furniture, new art, a new life built on my terms. The divorce was finalized. Marcus had moved across town. Elena had left him. Apparently, affairs lose their appeal when they stop being secret. His family still spoke to him, but differently now. The golden boy image had cracked, and everyone saw what was underneath. I didn't feel satisfaction. I just felt free. Free from his moods, free from his lies, free from the constant adjustment. My mom had visited the week before. She walked through the apartment slowly, looked at everything I had changed. Then she hugged me and said, "There you are." And I realized what she meant. For 3 years, I had been disappearing, shrinking, adjusting. Now, I was back. I had started therapy, reconnected with old friends, picked up painting again, a hobby Marcus always called a waste of time. I even planned a trip to Italy, solo, something I'd always wanted, something he never cared about. One evening, my phone buzzed. Unknown number? I almost ignored it. But something made me open it. "Hi, Natalie. This is Elena. I know you don't want to hear from me, but I need to say this. I'm sorry." Marcus lied to me too. He said you were separated, that it was already over. I found out the truth after everything collapsed. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just thought you should know. You weren't the only one he fooled. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed, "Thank you for telling me," and blocked the number, not from anger, from closure. That chapter was over, and I didn't need any more connections to it. A year later, I sat in a cafe in Rome, watching the sunset paint the Colosseum in gold. My sketchbook was open, my cappuccino was perfect, and for the first time in years, I felt like myself. Not the version Marcus wanted, not the quiet woman who apologized for taking up space. The real me, loud, confident, unapologetic. My phone buzzed. A text from my mom. "How's Italy?" I smiled and sent a photo. The view, the coffee, the life I built, all mine. I had learned something important. The woman Marcus called clueless was never clueless. I had always known. Somewhere deep down. I just hadn't been ready to face it. But when I finally did, everything changed. Not because he lost, but because I finally chose myself. I closed my sketchbook, finished my coffee, and walked out into the Roman evening. ready for whatever came next. Because the truth is, you don't need revenge. You don't need vindication. You just need to stop participating in relationships that require you to be smaller. And when you do, the life waiting for you on the other side is bigger than anything you left behind. Marcus thought he had gotten away with everything because I never looked closely enough. But once I started looking, everything he built collapsed. Not because I destroyed it, but because it was never real to begin with. And me, I rebuilt, piece by piece, choice by choice, until I finally recognized the woman in the mirror, the one I had been before him, the one I would be long after, strong, clear, free, and that was the best ending of all.